Our coaching videos are finally back. If you'd like to submit a gameplay for review, I'll leave these instructions in the comment section and the description of the video, but real quick, email in to youroverwatchplays@gmail.com. A gameplay uploaded to YouTube where you lost but thought you played well, or you weren't sure how to deal with what the enemy was doing or what your team wanted to do. The video visuals have to be high quality, and to incentivize you guys to send in a lot of submissions, I do respond to each and every email, which feels impossible, and it kind of is, but at the very least with a small pointer or two on things you should work on, even if I don't end up using your gameplay in a video. Today's video, we're going to be exploring and explaining the biggest thing that holds Plat players back, and that is simply playing too passive. This is a complicated conversation because the odd thing is, playing passive and careful is kind of what gets you to Plat, whereas bronze to gold, the awareness of players is quite poor, where they'll oftentimes catch deaths due to lack of awareness of the threats around them. Plat players typically don't take stupid deaths, which is a good place to start, but in order to get past this rank, you have to start taking risks and challenging yourself so that you actually know what you need to improve on. We'll show examples of what I mean, but in short, if you only play to stay alive, you're not really going to stress any weak points in your game or be able to carry. You'll sort of just be along for the ride with whatever the team's doing rather than taking over the game. This is going to sound really jarring for a lot of players around this rank because I know most of them have a very visceral reaction to what I'm going to prescribe you have to do in order to improve this area, but trust me, high-ranked players play this risky style all the time. It's knowing how to get away with it and actually challenging yourself that's going to make you grow and develop as a player, because as you rank up, you're going to be playing up against players that don't respect you, do start to run over you, and you just physically won't be able to compete. This is why when a high-ranked player looks at gameplay around this SR, it looks like it's in slow motion, like both teams are giving each other max respect and nobody's taking space, whereas as you go up the ranks, there's a lot more playmaking attempts for better or for worse. And that's something you're going to have to incorporate into your game to start climbing. Now, we've been watching in the background our Genji friend. This is going to be our first example. We'll have a few though. What we noticed thus far is that our Genji knows how to exploit openings for Nano Blade. But with the enemy doing basically nothing to counter it, this is the type of play that you should expect to farm up team fights for free. And a lot of times in ranked, you sometimes instantly win things that the enemy just hands you. It's important when reviewing your gameplay to ignore this. There's a ton of stuff in Overwatch where if the enemy decides to give you a free win in an area, you're just going to completely clean them up. Aha, but we do end up losing this game, despite winning a high percentage of Nano Blade team fights. Blade gameplay could use some improvement, but what's more important to me is the reluctance to know when to go aggressive in mid-fights. For example, let's take a look at our opening attack. The enemy has a Risa Hog, really popular comp right now, and they're putting the bunker quite forward, and we as Genji are largely playing around our tank or looking to break the shield. Meanwhile, their McCree is just cleaning up everything. Why is that? Is it because our teammates are feeding and they're really bad at the game? That might be true, but the important thing to remember as Genji is that that's your assignment. Harassing the DPS and winning the DPS duel is on you. But because our Genji friend here is playing so passive to just take the open free shots rather than go at the damage or get a flank or do really anything, we're forced here shooting at a shield as Genji, and that's just never going to provide anything. Until eventually enough time passes and we get our Nano Blade again, and then we do end up winning the fight eventually with Nano Blade, but playing passive for Blade every team fight is a recipe for failure over the course of an entire gameplay. You need to be getting mid-fight impact, or at least be a threat in the mid-fight, so you can make space for your team. If you were playing a hero that had a lot better shields break and lower mobility, like say if you were playing a McCree, playing behind your shield and breaking theirs probably is the right call. But you're not. You're playing Genji, the flanker duelist with a lot of mobility. So we need to be using that mobility to get value out of our character. Let me show you what I mean with an overhead view of the map. The enemy starts off with a horrible Orisa barrier. They actually end up putting it right here on the statue. But because it's in our mindset that I can't die, I got up to platinum this far by not dying, whatever I do, I have to play behind my tank. No. The enemy just opened the door for you to come around the right-hand side. This is a Genji buffet. Go over to the right side and start shooting them in the the side, or at least take this ground on the flank over here. Because if we as Genji use our mobility to actually hit a target, not a shield, we're gonna get Blade way faster. And you might say to yourself, well, the McCree might zone us out, but to some degree, that's kind of what you want as Genji. You want your healers to be able to heal you in a duel to pressure the McCree down, so the McCree doesn't free fire at your tanks and healers. You have reflect and mobility and are hard to hit. They are much easier to hit on the ground, and he can just hold left click nowadays and spam through all of them and destroy them. You have to be pressuring that to draw aggro away while farming up Blade. So eventually the Orisa does end up putting up a better shield to the back here, but the advice I would give is still the same. If we stay down this main lane, just shooting down the shield, our team has no space to work with. We're funneled into entirely irrelevant ground. Our Rhine tries to push through Hotel, which isn't really going to work with our team comp, but what you need to be doing is setting up a flank over on the right-hand side, which the enemy gives you for free, start poking down from range, and if something gets low, you could actually just carry the whole mid-fight by dashing in to finish off a kill. If anybody hits a shot on your team, Genji can do the cleanup duty. Get in and out with a dash reset. It's important to remember the things that beat Orisa comps. Flanking in the mid fight or big ult combos. And because we don't do enough flanking, we only beat their comp when we have ult, which is just too slow and inefficient. Now, to be clear, the things that I'm advocating you to do are hard, and you're probably going to fail at them badly before you succeed. Because what I'm telling you to do is go at duels that you may realize you can't win because you're not good enough yet. But trust me, that gets way more value than you as Genji sitting with your team shooting at their shield, which is actually the precise way to give Orisa's shield value. If you don't have enough shield break to break the shield and you shoot at it, it means you don't build ult and you're not even really pressuring them, because Orisa's get a new shield every 8 seconds anyway. It's incredibly OP. You can see how this ends up working on our defense, where again, they're slowly just pressuring us and we're staying in the main fight. This is what's called in FPS terms the main angle. And because you are squaring up against the McCree, well, he's got a hit scan, and you two might be precisely equal to each other in terms of skill, but his shots land reliably, whereas you're shooting shurikens from long range. So he can just turn this corner and win this poke battle, and we're still just playing passive with a style that's only going to win once we start to get Nanoblade. The funny thing is, the enemy is also making the same mistakes you're making at the same time. They just have better heroes for that job. None of them have high ground control either. If you take it on the attack and the defense, you have a chance to make an opening in the mid fight. Whereas with the playstyle you have, you just never will. In overtime here on the defense to play for the tie, we almost end up doing the right thing. Look how much more in fear the enemy is of you as soon as you start taking an off angle far to the left. An off angle is basically flanking, where you're pressuring from an angle that's away from the main team fight. But our reflect timing is kind of purposeless, and we don't use our cyber agility to go top left, so we can't really make an impact on this team fight. Playing top left might feel scary up against the dive tanks because they could jump onto you, but as long as you keep your dash as an escape, drawing their cooldowns towards you opens up lanes for the rest of your team as well. That's what space actually means. When you play max mobility heroes like this, Tracer and Genji especially, you have to somewhat obnoxiously take away useful ground that the enemy has to deal with, and then run away when they send resources at you to create a win-win scenario. Either you pull them out of position away from the main angle of the fight, or you pressure them down, build up Blade by not shooting a shield, and with any luck, if you or a teammate get somebody low, then you start the dash resets. But we're never going to actualize that playstyle if we keep playing Genji like he's Hanzo or Soldier or something. Now, our next few examples will be from an Ana's point of view, where this tendency to just play to try to stay alive, to play passively, manifests in poor cooldown usage. When you're playing Ana, your sleep and anti are the biggest threats you have. That's how you carry the game. That, and also hitting a very high percentage of shots to heal teammates and pressure enemies, of course. But those two are your team fight winners. And we get in a fight here that feels like we should be winning, but we don't. And when that happens, typically, it's due to a player or a bunch of players not getting good value out of their kits to land the cleanup frags. You have to notice as Ana, when you're in cleanup scenarios, you have to actually go finish the fight. When this Lucio gets on our face, rather than just rushing him down to make sure we land the nade, we do it kind of haphazardly and he gets away. He can't kill you when you still have nade. He just can't. So W towards this Lucio and hit him with a sleep, ideally, or nade both him and you by nading at your feet while closing the distance on him, then he could be marked for death. A similar thing happens with this Tracer, where because we're panicking so much to try to make sure we're struggling to stay alive, we don't take the time to actually line up, being sure we're in range to hit the Tracer. Find this a lot with players who aren't really acquainted with how much life they have left, and it causes you to play less optimally if you're just panicking to stay alive. Remember, passivity doesn't win games. It gets you to Plat, but we gotta start making plays to get past it. Same works for, now this is a PC gameplay, on Gibraltar. We're gonna see this Ana fail to get value out of her best cooldowns this entire time. When the enemy spawn trapping you like this, it's not good for them. In fact, if your whole team just goes and dives them, playing really dumb, but at least land your abilities on something to trade out evenly, even with Mercy Res, your respawn advantage will start to overwhelm them. But you have to be able to play aggressively enough to go get value out of your nade, not hope you stay in passive positioning and it eventually will come to you. No, you have to make it happen. I would rather see this Ana W towards the enemy in our spawn and hit an ability that lands in a frag. Playing passively, hoping our tanks kill their tanks when both healers are alive is just not going to happen. Like, you have to anti-nade something that we can then focus, then start the ripple effect of focus fire and man advantage to eventually play out, if not in this fight, but in the next one. If your teammates start to die, you're not getting out. They're already here, right? So pressing S to run away from the fight, it's too late. Like, W and go kill something. That's your goal in this spot. Sustaining in a losing fight is just going to draw it out anyway. Somebody's got to make a play, and it might as well be you. Still getting spawn trapped now. We go over to Lucio. It'll be easier for us not to die. But then our Lucio player goes on to waste every single amp and ability, basically. Not a single thing done here really gets any value. That's pretty rough, man. Looking at this Plat gameplay, passivity's number one. If I had a number two, it would be poor cooldown usage, but largely it comes from this passive game style where you think just staying alive is your goal in the game, and that's how you win. Nah, let's run this Lucio gameplay back. Just like in our Genji example, we're playing up against a bunker, but this time, the enemy does have high ground control. A Widowmaker who has just been destroying our team. I thought we were going to make a good call here and go, and look, the Genji's going to kill the Widow. Why do we ignore supporting our Genji to then go fight tanks that we can't kill? Our Genji has no hope up against a Moira by himself. You have to get in there to force the Moira to heal the Widow, try to boop them off, or at least heal the Genji, or something. The cart doesn't matter here, right? Because we're not getting it to move until we kill everybody anyway. So you might as well kill something you actually can kill, like a squishy. Lucio is a duelist and space creator. Go off and kill a squishy because you are just a Genji with a heal song. You're basically the same character you should be playing together. Because in any case, booping the tanks forward only works if we have damage alive on the other side, which we don't. Our damage is up top, actually doing the right thing. Because if we ignore the tanks on the low ground and go dive the squishies up top, the tanks get absolutely no value. But if your whole team plays passively on the low ground, just trying to survive behind the cart while they have all the ground and all the angles, well, you're going to get spawn trapped here for 4 minutes. Now, for our last example here, we're actually going to go up one rank up to Diamond. And this is just to show you what I mean about the big difference in playstyle between ranks. Because the truth is, when I watched this gameplay the first time, I was shocked that this Tracer player was in Diamond. Because in many ways, there's a ton of low impact segments where the Tracer's just not accomplishing anything, similar to how Plat players play. However, after watching it more carefully, you can see the difference in playstyle, which causes this player to win games at Plat and then get up to a peak of Diamond. And that is just risk taking. Simple as that. Because our Tracer is willing to go big for difficult plays that they mechanically fail sometimes, they have the potential to take over games that you otherwise would just flat out lose in Plat. So it might look bad to go for difficult plays that might lose you the game, but it's absolutely required to level up. You have to at least make the attempt for the difficult play, fail at it, to then know what to improve beyond that. Our Tracer's aim gets a little windy. Pulse bombs are just kind of tossed out there. Need practice on how to keep tracking through the follow-through of the animation so they actually can land reliably. But this stuff is really hard, especially when you're going in for triple blinks across the map, quickly slamming a pulse and recalling out. This isn't easy to do, but you can tell at Diamond now, we're starting to get a grip of what our character actually does, and you have to be brave enough to fail. Remember our Genji example? Junkrats and McCree going uncontested the whole time, whereas our Tracer here is taking the mechanical test to try to tango against him. Using our blinks to dodge the projectiles. Once the pocket comes in, we have to know that we need to barrel stuff the junk by probably blinking behind him, 180ing, and one-clipping him through the mercy healing, but that's okay. This is a good L to take because it gives us data of what we actually have to improve on. Failing at this is better than never taking the duel at all. I hope you guys found this video useful and it helped you unlock some of your gameplay. I know when everyone learns the basics of Overwatch, it's all about just staying alive, but Overwatch is much harder than that, obviously. And to progress from this rank, it's time to start taking the risks of actually attempting to play the game, not just avoiding the game from wrecking you. you. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, and dank memes. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for your Overwatch. See you guys next time.